It's another live episode of the In-Ring Wrestling Podcasts with, I'm the co-host here, the sidekick. I'm Kevin Kelly. And the host, the creator, the man behind the Wheels of Steel. That would be our MC extraordinaire, Casey Thompson. Casey, happy Labor Day weekend to you. How are you enjoying this holiday?
So far so good, no complaints. Just no labor involved this whole weekend, just taking it easy.
I had a little labor involved today. I had to mow the grass.
Oh,
But
work is so overrated. Oh,
I know work is for punks. Well, what we're doing tonight is, it's kind of emblematic of how our show flows so well and why I think
exactly.
the fans enjoy it, why our numbers continue to grow each and every week. And thank you to each and every one of you. I want to start right off the bat. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching any of the shorts, click that like button because apparently that really helps the analytics. So if you like content like this, by hitting the like button, it helps us and you'll see more content like us. But there is nothing else like us, Casey, because what we do here on this show is kind of like what we're going to do as far as a topic. We don't pre-plan anything. I mean, we kind of did this week, but we don't notes, we don't rehearse, we don't talk about it beforehand. We just open the mics and go live. And what we're going to talk about this week is the lost art, some would say, of calling a match in the ring.
Yes, sir. Ooh.
Now, okay, so calling it in the ring means that the two wrestlers may only know when they get in the ring, they may only know the finish, correct?
There's probably a bunch of variations. For back in the old days when Kayfabe was really alive, you would have the heels, the bad guys in one dressing room, the baby faces, the good guys in another dressing room. The referee would come to you and say, "Here's the finish tonight. Such and such is going over. He's gonna get you with a pile driver," and that's all you know. You go to the ring and you call it inside the ring. Now, as things evolved and all this that, so now you might have a different one entrance, whatever. You're together in the back. People don't realize it. And so some guys be like, "Hey, we're working tonight." Okay, they'll give bullet points. What you want to do, like the open, the the heat, the comeback, false comebacks, whatever in the finish. Just bullet points, a couple things, and then you just call everything on the fly. And then you have guys that don't call anything in the ring nowadays.
And they just rehearse it for hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where wrestling has really changed the most. And I'm almost to the point now where I don't even consider it wrestling anymore because they're more like, first of all, they're not on a full-time schedule. They wrestle just for the show itself. So it's almost like they're in a weekly TV show and they're rehearsing their part right then, and that's all they're doing. So and this week I've been watching a lot of stuff, and I've been getting really frustrated. I've been watching a lot of the whole tryouts. People do the whole video, their whole tryout with WWE, the process and stuff like that. And the reason why it brought me on this is I was watching, and I don't have anything to lose because he has never helped me. He's never going to help me, so I have nothing to lose. I don't care. The Undertaker. So he was in. I really enjoyed his podcast. What was the guy's name? He was with Matt.
Yeah, Matt something.
Yeah, forgive me, but I don't remember his name. I enjoyed the podcast. Now all of a sudden, Undertaker dropped it on him like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna do a drop. We're gonna drop. We're not doing it with you no more. I'm gonna do it with my wife." Which anyone behind the scenes knows that his wife Michelle McCool, she is in control. What he does, whatever she tells him to do. So she's on a podcast now, And that's what I've heard allegedly from other people. So whatnot, whatever. So I was watching the new podcast because now it's through the WWE. They're producing it and all this kind of stuff. And so, like they were saying with Maven and everything, when the guy Matt was talking, I hope they don't lose the authenticity of what they built up and everything because, are you going to really open up and tell a story when you're working with the office? So what kind of good
Mm-hmm.
stories are you going to get to be told? Because people really want to hear the behind the scenes where they're all screwed up, messed up, all the drugs, all that kind of kind of stuff, But when you have your wife as your co-host, are you going to really tell any good stories? Now that's what they were talking about on that podcast, hoping they don't lose the authenticity. I can't even talk tonight of it all. Anyhow, so their guest was um, Bubba Ray Dudley. So
Okay.
Bubba's on it, and Taker, they're talking about paying their dues. Do you feel that the people now have it different than the way they're brought into business? So, and they're talking about paying their dues, living out of their car. I mean, what is really like to pay your dues in the business, not to where it's just like out there. And Michelle's sitting over there doing like, oh yeah, back when the locker rooms they have now. Oh my gosh, you should have seen when I was on the road, the locker rooms we had. Are you serious? You're in an arena where you had gorgeous locker rooms. I've been at where I've had back of a popcorn stand where I was, behind a concession stand or, in a U-Haul trailer or not even anything at all. So they're talking about really paying their dues to get into business. And she's talking about the locker rooms. When you look at her, how did she get into business? Through a diva search. So
Right.
I'm really starting to get, I'm really starting to get aggravated with all these people who really just broke in the business and didn't pay their dues to be in the business. So
Yep.
I think there's almost like it's going to become two types of wrestling. You're going to have the old school, like we're talking about tonight, where you paid your dues to break into the business and you learned everything. And then the people that are going through the new way of getting to the business is they pick you out of a tryout and they do everything. So all right, I'm done with my little
Soapbox
rant for the
time.
day.
Soapbox. Brought to you by Tide Pods. See, these are
Yeah,
where the
exactly.
sponsor reads could go. Tide Pods, of course, you don't want to eat them. You want to only use them to wash your clothes. And
Oh, you
that's
don't eat
our
them?
sponsor. No, Casey.
Oh, you're right. Don't eat Todd
Don't
Pods.
eat the
Yeah. Don't eat them.
pod tides.
Say that 3 times real fast.
Yeah, we do, of course, have our live stream going, and we're saying hello to Robert the Sage and also to our friend Big here, who's a newer Big Graps production. Kevin, Casey, you guys are the most underrated duo in the internet wrestling community today. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
One dressing room, so to speak, and luckily I showed up and I didn't need to get dressed, and I usually show up 90% of the time, 99% of the time. I show up in my suit because I never know what I'm going to find. But no lie, Casey, there was a curtain drawn and we had about this much room. So two people could, the back wall, the curtain, and if you wanted to pass each other, you would like try to wrap around each other as quickly as possible. And there were a couple of guys in chairs just trying to put their drawers on and trying to find a space to lace their boots. And I was like, oh my God, this is the tightest locker room I've ever seen. There are any number of scenarios that you and I have experienced that the wrestlers of today, those that just burst onto the scene, shall we say, through the modern recruiting process.
Tryout era.
The tryout era. They'll never get to experience. They'll never know what it's like, life on the indies.
And they don't appreciate the business because of that.
Well, we can't say. I understand
they
what you're
don't
saying.
understand
they
the
don't
business of
understand it.
real wrestling. Yeah.
So it's right. So it's not. How can you not appreciate something you have no frame of reference to?
Right.
You've heard the stories, and
Right.
you say, because there were probably some skunky smell in dressing rooms and in some of the house
Ooh.
shows that they used to do. But most of the time, 99% of the time, they were wrestling in arenas.
Right.
They never wrestled where you had to get changed in a Mexican restaurant, or in the bodega next door to the Mexican restaurant where the wrestling was going on.
Right.
Those types of scenarios exist every weekend, all the time.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
when in the old days, as we're going to talk about with calling matches in the ring, most of the time those guys were in the arenas, but there were times too where they were at the small American Legion building. I think about
Yeah.
Orlando and how Orlando progressed, and it went from the American Legion and then matriculated out east to the soon to be renamed no longer Orlando Sports Stadium, but rather the Eddie Graham Sports
Right.
Stadium. And so they went
Do you remember the name of that road?
It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Econ Hakalachi Trail.
Yes, I knew it started with an E.
Trail.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
Econ
think
Trail.
of it.
Yeah.
The Econ Trail.
Yeah, that
and
was
all
those
of that
were the
area.
days, though.
That used to be, for those of you who grew up in Orlando, you know what we're talking about. You used to get past the Florida Mall on Sand Lake Trail, going out east, and there would be nothing. Or if you're coming from the north, there would be nothing. And then all of a sudden there was this building, and that was the Eddie Graham Sports Stadium.
Do you remember your first time you walked into that locker room at one of those historic buildings from the day? It's like, I have arrived.
My two buildings that I saw wrestling in live, West Palm Beach Auditorium, and the Fort Pierce St. Lucie County Civic Center.
Oh yeah,
because I lived in Stewart, so we would go to either one. And
which one did you like better?
Oh, obviously West Palm.
Oh, okay.
Because Fort Pierce was it was such an odd shaped building. So the stage, as it were, with the locker rooms directly behind it, were in the first third of the building, and then 2/3 was nothing except seats. So most of the time they would have the ring set up. When I went first time in like 77 or 78.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Like the first main event I saw in Fort Pierce was Dusty in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
So they had the ring directly in
my first main event was Dusty and Abdul the Butcher.
Like 83 or 86?
83.
Yeah. They had the ring dropped in the center. The seats went all the way down. The baby faces came down the stage, and the heels came out the other door. Over time, most of the time, we would have the building cut off in half. And
or quarter.
We would just use the stage side. It was like a third. I also
Is that when Cliff started running shows there?
Yeah. And that was the first time that I went there to work. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is awesome.
It's like sacred ground.
Yeah. And I went with Rockin' Randy Rhodes. We went to help WCW just to show our faces because we were both trying to get jobs. And we helped put up the cage that night. So that was kind of fun for for a WCW live event. And then, of course, West Palm, we were there in December of 96 for WWF for a pay-per-view, and I was over the moon the whole day. I
wrestled that building with WWF.
Amazing. Okay.
My building was the Lee County Civic Center in Fort Myers, Florida.
I never got over and saw that building.
It's a big building. And I remember going to my first wrestling event, walking through the high rises to get there, and it's just the smell, how everything's just the ambiance of the whole night was just like, I was 11 years old, maybe 10 years old, maybe 11, and it was I still remember that to this day. And then I remember when I wrestled the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase for WWF in that building. So
Did
I
you
mean, it
win the
was like,
belt?
um, I don't know. I have to look back on YouTube, see if I can figure it out. I'm not sure. I mean, I've been hitting my head a few times, so I
I
don't
know.
remember quite everything. You know.
I would have loved to have gone to, and I also went to an event at the Bayfront.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and saw Dusty team with JYD against Kevin Sullivan in the Purple Haze. The semifinal that night was a barbed wire match with Blackjack versus Angela Mosca.
Oh
So there you
wow,
go.
wow. That's cool. Yeah, I wrestled
Yeah,
in WCW in that building.
that was always nice. It always looked great. Okay, so here's a question
Yeah.
from Darren, and we thank you for chiming in. Darren Walker asking, any wrestling arenas you not like going to? I've got a big one that'll shock a lot of people.
What is it?
Well,
Well,
okay, so when you think of famous arenas for wrestling, the most famous arena, Madison
Madison
Square
Square Garden.
Garden.
Yeah.
What a dump. What an
Yeah.
absolute dump.
But you
It
love
was
being there, though.
awful. No. First of all, it was, and I sound like Cornette when I'm doing this. First of all, going to Manhattan is the worst. Trying
Yeah.
to find parking sucks. And then when you get in the building, it smells like garbage.
Apparently, you
Like,
didn't get to park inside the building.
sometimes I did, but most of the time we parked just to get out quicker.
Right.
We would park
Down the
around
street.
the corner at the parking garage on 34th. That's where most of the boys park because they didn't
Right.
want to deal with trying to get out of the building at the end of the night. So they would park down the street. So then as soon as they get done with their match, they could vamoose. But no, that building
Now,
sucks. Way
in
overrated.
history has always been that building, the main event was like the middle of the card. Was
Correct.
it that way when you guys were there too?
When they did house shows, that was in the transition point.
Okay.
So they may have still done. Now, in some of the Northeast, like I went to a live event just to take my son to it. It was in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And the main event was The Undertaker. Well, they had The Undertaker on in the middle of the card, and he wrestled Test. And
Right.
then he was gone. And the final match that night was Rob Van Dam versus somebody. And then RVD
Right.
did the Bret Hart thing, did the Cody Rhodes thing where he shakes hands with all the fans on his way out.
Right.
But that used to be the thing because they would put
Do you
tickets
know
on
why
sale.
they did that back then at the Garden?
Well, I would assume that it was to put tickets on, right? Or to make sure that they had enough time for the main event because of the curfew.
Well, this is what Bugsy told me. It was because Bruno was God back in those days, the 60s and the 70s at the Garden. You know, he built that house. And
Mm-hmm.
it's for they can get him in and out and whoever he wrestled because they had so much heat during the match with Bruno to keep them from getting killed. They had to slide them out when people were still watching the show, is what
Gotcha.
I was told. Is otherwise they would never be able to get them out of the building.
Interesting. And that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then of course they use that to put tickets on sale right after
Right.
Bruno would win his match, or they would have a disputed finish or whatever, the 3-match program that they historically ran, count out, DQ, and then cage. So you would buy tickets for what you were coming back for because the Garden ran every month.
Right.
There were other buildings in the Northeast that were older that had less cachet, shall we
Right.
speak, that were older, not as modern as MSG, that I liked a lot more. Like the Broome County Arena up in Binghamton. It's a smaller barn, but it had really high seats.
Oh yeah.
Same as
That
the
goes
Hershey Park
straight up.
Arena. Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever wrestle at the Hershey Park Arena?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of similar in that it's an old hockey venue. And I thought that building was great. Albany had a cool building as well.
Right.
Some of the hockey venues during the wintertime, they're very cold because they
Yeah, because
put
the ice is still there.
the ice is there, and they would put really thick. It was almost like
Plywood.
sheets of plywood down,
Mm-hmm. Or
but some of
plastic.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, some of them were getting a little musty smelling. And those locker rooms got to smell like hockey players and hockey player gear. And you
Right.
knew you were in a hockey venue, which was always pretty cool. But,
Right.
growing up in Florida, I remember the smell of the St. Lucie County Civic Center and West Palm Beach Auditorium. That mix of
Yeah.
popcorn and secondhand
Stale
smoke and
beer.
stale beer and just
Yeah, that was the
that.
Eddie Graham. Popcorn, beer, and smoke.
Yeah.
It was
And that's
great, though.
what, yeah. And that's the era that we grew up in.
Right.
So Scott asks a question, which I think is interesting, and this might take some thought. Odd buildings that we've worked in.
Oh. Well, let me answer his first question. The building I dreaded the most,
Oh yeah.
and it's a small building, but I would imagine that every WCW wrestler would agree with me, would be in Atlanta, center stage.
Yep.
It was just awful. Besides the crowd, well, the crowd, they would literally pay homeless people with bags of food and T-shirts. They give them the T-shirts to wear and give them bagged food when they left the building to keep them there for the whole thing. And it only hold like 500 people, so it
Right.
wasn't big at all. It's just, and it was cold and dingy, and the locker rooms were small, the hallways were real narrow, and um, the food was god awful. So just awful. But
we
yeah,
went.
that would be the one place that I would say that not only myself, anyone that ever wrestled there would be like, oh God, we're at center stage. And plus there was no draws there because there's no gate.
Yeah. We now we did Ring of Honor there a couple of
Okay.
times, and they had renovated the building, so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as bad as it had been. Um, and it was actually kind of nice, I will say,
Oh wow.
because they had renovated. Like, I don't know whether they expanded the underneath, but from what I
Oh.
gathered, from what Cornette had said, is that, oh, this is a hell of a lot different now than what it used to be.
Yeah.
But because you actually had room to walk,
Oh, okay.
and you still had the stage, you still had all the seats facing this way as the locker
Mm-hmm.
rooms were, um,
Right.
and it was kind of neat. I think sellout was 600.
Okay.
No room really for floor seats other than the side sections, if you will.
Right.
It was kind of cool. I'm trying to think of, like, so that was a building of dread for you. Everybody dreaded
Yeah.
going to the Garden. Trying to think of like another building that was a building that was odd. Well, I know that there were a couple of buildings in Japan that were different, just because it was Japan. There was a
Right.
couple of buildings that we hated going to because it was just house show lights, and they had giant airplane hangar size convention centers in a lot of these towns.
Oh
So
wow.
you would just go in and it
That's
would just
cool.
be the house lights and nothing fancy and no ambiance, and there was so much room on the other side of the curtain. Let's say they got 1,000 people in, right? There was
Right.
enough room on the other side of the curtain that the
Like,
buses could park.
oh
So
wow.
so getting in and out was easy, because we would just park right there. But usually those buildings, they were hot, and
Yeah.
they didn't. Japan doesn't believe in air conditioning, at least not to American
Mm.
standards.
Right. Yeah.
And so, we would jump on the bus just to get cool. But yeah, there was one building in a town called Nara, which is out of the way of Tokyo. I would, good 4 or 5 hours, I think, if I remember correctly. And Nara is an old whaling town, and so they had their arena, and from the outside, it looked like a ship. It was really freaking cool. And then you went inside,
Yeah.
and it was awesome looking. And I've got a picture I'll put up with me and Rocky. So we're on the stage, and all the people are behind us. It didn't do the building justice, but it
wow.
was just a neat venue. And
Yeah.
there were a lot of oddball buildings that I'm sure I'm sure you wrestled in, Casey. Like, where are we doing this show?
I
Did you
will
ever
tell
do?
you this: the
Go ahead.
the the building with the coldest shower was over in South America, and I was in Arequipa, Peru. It was like icicles coming out of the shower. It was so freaking cold.
Oh,
It's like you really had to make sure you didn't have a bad heart when you turned that water on because there's no hot water. And it was like, whoa, it totally woke you up and thought you're going to die.
um, and yeah, and there's a couple. I'm sure that I know that Scott wrestled in here as he's mentioning. The PA. These are Northeast venues. So the Opera House in Littleton, New Hampshire, was really cool. Way, way the freak way up in New Hampshire, almost to Canada. And the PAL,
Yeah.
which is a venue that Top Rope runs. It's dumpy, but it's got charm. And those, I never minded a dump if it had charm. We both, worked in some dumps, and we've worked in some. Did you ever do like outdoor shows at like a car dealership? Can you hear me, Casey? My
Yes, I
internet
can hear you.
connection is
I know
okay.
you were having some technical issues earlier.
Yeah. Did you? I was asking, did you ever do a show at a car dealership? No, you can't hear me. What's going
I
on?
can hear you,
You can?
Kevin.
Can you hear me? Just nod if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? Trying to reconnect. I'm having internet instability.
Well, Kevin's having a little technical issues, but like we said at the beginning
Damn
of
it.
the show, everything is live here. We don't edit nothing, so if we screw up, everyone's going to see it. We don't fix anything. So,
What do you mean we don't fix
what?
anything? I fixed. No.
Oh, my
Can you
bad.
hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. So, yeah, and we're doing our best here. I'm having instability. Freezing with a little lag. Sorry, Scott. Yeah. Internet instability, which I normally don't have.
Right, that's usually me.
Yeah.
You look
I
real
couldn't
good right
turn
now, Kevin.
I thank you. I couldn't turn my computer on. Like
Oh,
I sat down and everything was plugged in and there was power and my mixing board was lit. My light was illuminated. Everything's plugged in and I had to
yeah,
hold you push the power button off and you push the
right.
power button and it reboots. I had to push on the power button and hold it for like 10 seconds.
Oh,
It was
wow.
like a major
I
reboot.
see you use the same IT department I do.
I called the experts. Yeah. They got right
Yeah.
over. All right. So let's talk about calling it in the ring, Casey, because we said that some guys you would have just the framework of a match. You might call the heat spot, the cutoff, and what you might want to do for a comeback and a little falsy here, a little falsy there, but call the majority of it in the ring. Some guys, and the way it is now, they memorize the entire match. And,
Mm,
if you go astray or if you get your time cut, then you got to figure out what you're doing. Walk
right.
me through the process of calling it in the ring. And because I've always heard it said that the heel calls the match, meaning
Right.
he's the one who speaks and tells the babyface first what to do to him, because you shine the babyface up in the beginning of the match. The heel
Yeah.
makes the babyface. That's what you're supposed to do, kids.
I
Um,
think over time that kind of changed, and it just went to whoever um, was going to win, or like if you do an independent, there's probably different stages and variations of it. So
mhm,
naturally, if you're doing a TV match, you're just going to do what they tell you to do. And you may have some input, you may not have some input. Um, and I've been through it where I've had a lot of input, and I just said, "All right, I'll just keep my ears on and tell me what to do out there." You know,
mhm.
so um, but yeah, back in the day, it always was the heel because the heel called his own bumps back in the day. So he would call the whole match and everything. And I really didn't have a lot of that. Um, because like I said, everything's changed over time. Everything changes, with time. Just like now my day, we called it in the ring. You had some guys that would go over all of it in the back, and nowadays
Mm-hmm.
they choreograph the whole entire thing. So
Um,
the difference is with that is they're not they're not wrestling for the people in the audience. They're wrestling for the TV people watching.
right.
And you know as well as I do that they've sat people there for 20 minutes at a time when they're doing stuff that they're showing pre-tapes or doing stuff in the back, and the live audiences is sitting there is just like, twiddling their thumbs. So, but that's the whole thing when you choreograph a match is you're supposed to go out there and get the emotion from the people to be able to dictate what you do. So that's why they would always say, "Hey, let's just call it in the ring," because yeah, in the back it sounds great. We're going to do this, this, is that. But if you're not getting any response from the crowd, from the fans, then you're just like shooting in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
So then they would change it on the fly and change stuff up. Sometimes you go out there and they'll just be like the crowd is just like completely just dead. You're bumping all over the place, taking all these doing all these high spots and everything, and they're like just sitting there like, oh, this sucks. I'll be like, oh, sorry, bro. And they're, what do you mean? Sorry for what? I said, for this. Whack. Just tater them, just chop the hell out of them a couple times, get that response from the people, kind of just to wake them up. Be like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay. And it's like, as Blackjack Mulligan used to do when he was calling it in the and there's so much, man, I could go all over the place with this. Um, Blackjack Mulligan would call his taters. Watch the tater, kid. Boom! And just kill you. He would call the taters. Barry Windham would shoot you off and say, back bump. So you had to guess if you're taking an elbow, a clothesline, um, anything. So you had to anticipate to figure out what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so my days, um, I called a lot of my stuff when I was in a tag team with Cliff. I called for everybody, all four guys. I'm like, just tell me what you want to do. I'll work it in the match. Because when you really start to know what you're doing, you do things like teasers in the beginning of the match to where it makes sense later on. Like, oh, that's why he's doing this. And there was like psychology behind it. Like, you would always work one body part. Say, like if you were wrestling Arn, he's going to probably work the shoulder or the back, because that's what he does. And they would you know, veer off and then come back to that body part. So you're always working that body part, breaking it down. So you're making sense behind what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get guys. I think my biggest fear when I'd wrestle it sometimes that I wouldn't hear what they're telling me. So, because they're got you in a headlock, doing like tackle, drop down, take my clothesline. They'd call the spots like that, but there's different ways to calling it too. I would just because sometimes you can see guys talking like, oh yeah, hey, duck my clothesline me.
Mm-hmm.
You can see them, talking like whispering and stuff like that. So what I would do is I would talk to the referee a lot. I would buzz the referee and tell him to turn around and block my punch 1 2 1 2, whatever I wanted to tell him, and then the referee would tell him, or I would just look at him just like I was yelling at him like, I'm gonna attack you, duck my clothesline, cross body block, do this and that, and it just looks like I'm yelling at him, getting heat on him while I am calling the match. Or I would go in there and like, hey, look at I learned this from Jerry Gray. Be like, hey, you want me to get my clothesline? And they're like, yeah. All right, duck my clothesline, and then just yell it to the people and just, just different ways of doing it. Everyone had their own style. You had guys that would like the old grizzly old vets would be like, ah, you'd have like um Dick Slater. was this way. Mike Graham was this way. They growl the whole time they're doing. I have noise cancellation, so when I do it, you can't hear it on the. They sound like ah. And then they'd be talking like growling and saying tackle, and they growl, 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 drop down, and growl and all that kind of stuff. So everyone was kind of different, but my biggest fear was not hearing what they told me to do, and then getting my ass kicked because I screwed something up.
Yeah, right. Because you could wind up in a bad part of town if you're not understanding what the spot is. So, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm not understanding, or you're not understanding what I called, let's say. You put the brakes on. What do you do? Do you call it again? What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it kind of really depends on who you're wrestling because, a lot of guys say, got it. They got it. And then once you gave them the go ahead, you go ahead and run your
Mm-hmm.
spot and everything. Sometimes they didn't care. I'm like, wait, I didn't hear, and they're like, oh, like, oh, we better hear it now. So, yeah, sometimes you got in trouble because, you learn to the big word anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's um, actually when I used to run um, a wrestling school, when Blackjack ran a wrestling school and I trained a lot of those guys, he did a drill. It was called an eye opener with, and so you have a guy in the middle and the guy running the ropes. So if he comes out in a tackle position, you give him a tackle. If he's dropping down, you're going to go up and over, leapfrog, uh, whatever, and you end it with like a clothesline or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and basically you just go running, 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 and you don't know what they're calling and what they're doing. You just anticipate what they're doing. It's an eye opener drill, and it actually builds your ring gets you in ring shape, gets your ring cardio. There's a difference between cardio and wrestling inside that 16 by 16, 18, or 20 by 20-foot ring. You could run a marathon and you can gas out inside that wrestling ring in like 2 minutes because those things were like brutal. There's difference between being in ring shape and then being in shape,
Right.
which I
Same
know it's kind of
wrestler, but a wrestler like Blackjack, let's say, who would wrestle an up and down 25-minute match with, say, the Masked Superstar in
yeah,
Mid-Atlantic in 1981, he probably
right,
wouldn't be able to go out and run a marathon. But he
right.
had cardio for days because he was in ring shape.
Yep. But you
It's
take someone who
interesting.
runs marathons, they would gas out in a couple minutes
Yeah.
inside the wrestling ring with someone like that.
Okay, so did you ever lock up with somebody that, let's say either you or he show up to the building late and they're racing to put their boots on and you didn't even get a chance to talk to them? Did you ever get in the
Oh
ring
yeah,
and did you ever lock up with somebody and go, "Hello, friend," or something?
I wrestled Dean Malenko on TV. He was out doing promos and stuff like that, and um, I seen him when we got in the ring. Never said one word the whole time. So, and a lot of times they can tell if you can work or not just how you lock up, and you've probably heard that before from people.
Yes.
You can tell if someone knows what they're doing, how they lock up, and their footwork, how they move in the ring, and things like that. So, I've had a lot of guys that never said a word. Um, I've had guys that were, I got to the building once late and my music was going. I was already dressed because I was changing in the car and just whoop, right out the curtain into the match, into the ring, just because I was late. But we called it all in the ring.
How
And you get
much
guys that are like, they'd be like, stop, slow down, don't rush, take your time, stop, relax. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Okay, let them get behind you. Okay, let it build up. Let it build. Okay, now we go. Let's go now. Those things you would hear back in the day.
So it's a little bit of a ventriloquist act, right? Like you would try to keep your
Oh,
teeth together and not move your mouth
and
and
you'll see guys like this, like,
yep.
yeah, I'm gonna do block in. You might block if they're calling a match. You might uh have me in a headlock, and I'm trying to put my hands up there. I'm blocking your face where they can't see you, and you're talking to me. And yeah, there's a lot of different guys. um, that call different ways and things like that. And I think the best guys, the guys who did the jobs back in the day, you wrestled so many different people every single week, so you learn the best way of listening and hearing and working off the fly.
Do you remember somebody in particular that was really, really good at calling a match that you worked with? Like, man, they led me through everything. It was so easy.
I know one that in Scott Norton. We've talked this before. The internet wasn't big in those days, so when he came to WCW, yeah, I knew who he was, but I didn't know how big of a wrestler he was, especially in Japan. And we're wrestling in just the 3-4 minute TV match, and he laid out the we called it all in the ring. But when I watched it back later, I'm like, holy shit, this made a lot of sense. It was easy. The whole flow of the match just went right after another, and it just made sense what he did. And I was just like, I gained so much respect for him after that match because I'm like, this guy knows this guy can call a match. Because there are guys
Mm-hmm.
that can work, but you can't call a match. I can follow my instructions. There's guys like that. They're instructional wrestlers. You give them the instructions, they can do it. But you tell them to call the match, they're like, they know it all. They know how to do it, but they can't compute it from their brain out their mouth on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was
Did you get
fortunate.
used to? Go ahead.
No, I was just fortunate enough that I could. Um, you tell me a spot one time, I could tell it back. I could tell it to you backwards. I just was like that way. I got very good to be able to just remember. My memory was good. I could remember everything, and it made it very, very easy on me because they knew. Oh yeah, I can. I could. You wrestle him. He knows. He hears and he can do everything. You have no issues with it because there's guys that worry about that. Oh, wrestling this guy on TV tonight. Oh, another guy. That's why you see some guys just get beat up out there because they couldn't work on the fly. You know.
They didn't have enough experience to know what to do or when to do it or how to respond physically to a spot that's called. I know that
Right.
in Japan, the girls would like scratch each other on the wrist or in the hand to get them to turn it around because there was a language barrier. And
Oh
so
yeah.
a lot of times, the crowd would kind of hoot and holler a little bit if you weren't good at covering that up, and
Right.
it it would be a a mark against you if you got spotted on that. But then you didn't know what
Sure.
the girl was going to do. So let's say you're turning it around and the Japanese girl is now coming off the ropes and you're in the center. You don't know if she's going to drop kick you in the face or if she's going to baseball slide through your legs or
Right.
wheelbarrow you around the waist. You had no idea what you were going to be, what was going to be coming at you, and it was coming full force.
Right. Yeah.
So boy, talk about on nerves. Now let me ask you this, because I know, talking with Cornette, that the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express had wrestled each other so many times that
Yeah.
depending on what it was, they could call. They had like almost code words, shorthand.
Sure. Yeah.
Were there guys like that you worked with to where you could just say one word and they knew the spot?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you
Give me
work
an
someone so many times. Those guys, Robert and Ricky and Bobby and them, they could do a whole match because they've wrestled so much.
right
So I'll be like, hey, remember we did that thing in Baltimore? Let's do that. Oh, okay, yeah. And they remember it.
now. Can you
Yeah, I
give me?
definitely
Do
had
you
guys that
remember?
I wrestled like that.
Can you remember specific examples of somebody who, because I know you wrestled like, say, Chris Nelson and Dennis Allen a lot. Um, were there some guys that you could just say a word or two and they knew the spot? Give me, if you remember any, give me an example. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Um, I wrestled Dick Slater, and when I broke the $60,000 camera, he's like, "Hey, do your corner spot." Okay. He knew that I was going to go in, and I was doing a big flip over the top to the floor. So I mean, he knew, just from we wrestled a few times, and he's like, "Oh yeah, do that corner spot." All right, cool. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, there's probably so many examples. Um, a lot of my stuff with Sid, when I wrestled Sid, I called a lot of that stuff. There's a match with me and Rob Van Dam against Sid, and the beginning of the match, um, Sid choke slams me, and I get right back up, like almost no sell it, turn around, and he's coming at me with a big boot, and I take a bump over the top rope. I call that spot. So, and then Rob called another spot. He let us call because I worked Sid a lot, and he had trust in me. He would be like, I'm like, hey, I have an idea. And he's like, oh, what is it? Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Of course, it's always to put him over because that's what my
Yeah.
job was. So, and if I could take really good bumps, and you ask any guy that's done enhancement work or anything like that, jobs or whatever, their big thing is want to take really good bumps, to show their art, their work and everything. I take a good
Mm-hmm.
bump, that means everything. I remember taking a backdrop once from Dan Spivey. He's like, I turned around, I looked, and I'm like, where he is at? I was still in the air, because he launched me up so high.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell them, I said, just launch me. I'm good. And I'd push off their shoulders, and they would elevate my legs, and I would be hitting those lights, you know?
And some of the guys were more, they would want to go through things with you. Like you and Sid worked a bunch, so you didn't have to talk a lot.
Yeah.
But were there some guys that you did enhancement work for that would want to go through everything with you?
Oh, Flying Brian Pillman,
Yeah.
he'd go over the stuff the whole afternoon because he did spots that had 5, 6 different segment parts to it, And but I was the type of person, you tell it to me once, I'm gonna remember it. I don't know why. I was never that way in school. When I took a test, I didn't see it and remember it. But you're doing something that you love, you have passion for, you're gonna, you learn things. So I could go over the whole thing one time and be done. There's guys that Flying Brian would go over the match all afternoon. You'd walk by and see someone. I'm like, oh, I would actually tell them the spot when they're calling it. Like he'd be going over it again, and I'm not even wrestling that night. I'm walking by and I said, oh, you're gonna do this, this, and this
Yep.
because I heard them talking about it all day. And the guy would laugh at me, and Brian would like, oh. And I'll give you one you were asking that I just came to me right now. Um, Jimmy Powers.
Okay.
He like, hey, my clothesline spot? Yeah, I'm gonna do the clothesline spot. Basically, you're gonna feed for clotheslines. He does something like a tackle drop down, go for a backdrop. He's gonna knee lift you, and then come out. You just feed for a bunch of clotheslines. He's done it in almost every single match he's ever wrestled in. So it's just like, oh yeah, clothesline spot. Yeah, yeah, okay. So you wrestle them a bunch and you know it. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Have guys that I've wrestled, like you said, Chris Nelson, uh, guys like that. Just go out there and I'll just call it in the ring and just go from there. And you really didn't call a lot because you've wrestled them so much. You just kind of like you shoot them off and you're like, oh, I forgot to tell him. Oh, he knows what I'm gonna do. You know, just because it becomes second nature,
I
and
forgot
you
to
just
tell him.
learn that that's you've done it so many times. You don't need to call it.
Right. Did you guys
So,
ever have any conversations that would go on? Like, um, like I'm trying to think of an example. Like, let's say you lock up with somebody and it's, hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? What's going on? How's everything? Were there any guys like
oh,
that?
you remember? Yeah, you remember Barry Houston, right?
Oh yeah.
Todd. Yeah. So we were wrestling down in Venice. I think a Rick Ryder show.
Okay.
And we lock arms like, hey, you see that girl over there? I'm like, oh yeah. Like, yeah. He's like, get me some heat over there. All right. he wants to get sympathy because he's trying to get with her for after the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd be talking. I'll be like, we'll be talking. I'm like, oh yeah. He'd be talking. So I'd beat on him and throw him towards her, and throw him out of the ring. Stiff him a few times out there. I think I chopped him so hard his chest broke open, started bleeding. But he, was trying to get that sympathy for he could have some after the matches, um, festivities.
After
Festivities.
some post-match entertainment. Um,
There you
we've
go. Yeah.
we've talked about your match, your victory, where you got your hand raised against Abdullah the Butcher,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm curious. Did Abby say anything? Did he call any spots? What was his communication style, if he had one? I mean, we know he spoke English, but was there, with his type of aura, did he even bother to call anything, or would he just take over and beat you up?
I never heard a word.
Ah.
Not a single word. Nothing at all. It was the craziest thing. He he shoots you off and you didn't know what you had to anticipate. You didn't know it was going to come. But you're wrestling a guy like that. What could it be? An elbow, a clothesline? He's not going to
Yeah.
give me a drop kick. We know that.
No.
Not in
You're
his
not.
later days. Maybe his earlier days. I seen him do some kind of a you know, kick to the back of the head or something like that in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, but not. So yeah, all I was trying to do was try to stay away from that kendo sticker. He was lighting guys up like crazy back then, and I had my timer in my head counting down, and I would take a bump and let it sell. I let it register, let it sell. Take my time, let me roll over, and I was like, you know what? He's a big fat fuck. No disrespect, everyone knows he is. So I'm letting him come to me because I'm not getting up. I'm gonna let him come get me and then do something. And every time he
Right.
got me, I let him come to me again because I'm eating the time off the clock. So
And if you would have gotten up, you would have pissed him off,
right,
because I can tell, and I see it all the time, and it's like, why are you getting up? He's
yeah,
just killed you with move A, B, C, or D. And there you are getting up, and you're up in the corner like he's going to run you to the next corner. No, he's got to pick you up slowly. What are you doing? Why do you do that?
yeah,
You had to lay there and you wait until they come and get you.
yeah. I
Now, let
wrestled
me ask.
Ron and Don Harris at the
Okay.
Orlando Arena, and I was in a tag team match. It was for the World Tag Team Championships, WCW,
Ooh,
and the other guy, I don't think he got in the ring at all. I think he took the finish. They're like, you know what? We're not even letting you out. We like what you're doing, everything you're doing. We're just gonna stay with you the whole time. And I'm like,
nice.
oh, they're like, hey man, we just put you over at the office really big and all that. And I was in the best shape of my life. I was looked like I belonged to be in there.
Yeah.
Everything was perfect. My work was as good as anyone out there. I had no hesitations. I mean, I had everything from A to Z. I had it going on, and I'm like, oh, cool. And and that's the time that there was like a big office change. That night, everyone got fired. So I was like,
Really?
oh, yeah, yeah. Kevin
Um,
Sullivan got fired. I think Terry Taylor was
wow.
still around, but Kevin got fired. Bischoff got fired or sent home or whatnot.
Really?
That's yeah. This was in oh man, probably maybe two, no, maybe 97, 96, 97.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So you mentioned Kevin Sullivan, and I know
Yeah,
Kevin Sullivan apologized to Steve Carino right before we went out for the match, because Kevin was the lights go out, lights come back, Kevin's in the ring. He's got the golden spike. Is it going to be on BJ Whitmer? Is it going to be on Carino? And he
yeah,
gives it to Carino. He warned Carino ahead of time. He said, sorry about the spike, kid. I'm stiff with it.
yeah.
But um, what would be like working with him? Did he have a style of calling spots that was different? Was there anything different about him?
No, I mean he was just a maniac. I I never wrestled him on TV. I wrestled him um just house shows and stuff like that. So I would get half the match and everything. So that was cool. And I never got the double stomp, thank God, because that thing was stiff as hell. I did
Yep.
get the tree of woe and about got knocked out in that thing. So, but he was just a maniac, just just going, going, going. And but he was a good buddy of mine. Um, so he laid it in. I'll lay it in just as hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And he
figured he's gonna set the gauge. He's gonna tell how hard he wants it.
and would he be somebody that would tell you what to do beforehand, or would he call it in the ring? What was Kevin's style?
Oh no, I mean maybe some bullet points if there's something we had to do. But no, he's just like, I'll just go out there and just call it out there. End up being just going to be a smudge anyhow, so just going to
Right.
be a big cluster. So,
Yeah,
but
because
no, he didn't really.
you weren't running like big complicated spots. It would be go to the corner, give me a boot, probably, right? Or
Yeah, yeah, nothing.
watch the blank.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, and you look at all of his wrestling. I mean, he um he was. I remember he was doing WCW and just killing job guys every week. And Johnny Swinger was like, I was buddies with Johnny, and Johnny got Kevin, and that's when he had Jacqueline with him, Miss Jackie,
Oh my God.
and Jackie was killing the guys, and guys are all like getting pissy about it because they're doing a job for her, and
Right.
she's like stiff as hell too. And he's like, and this one we're doing like I think it was Universal at the time, so we're wrestling for a couple weeks straight every day. He's like, you can't get through this whole taping this whole time without wrestling Kevin. I said, no. I said, it's not going to happen to me. He's, what do you mean? I said, I won't wrestle him at all. Oh, come on. I said, not everyone wrestled him except for me. I was buddies with Kevin Sullivan, so Kevin didn't put me through that. He
Mm-hmm.
put it on someone else, but Johnny was like, oh man, that's bullshit. I'm like, hey, can't help it. I'm friends with the guy, you know?
Exactly. Now, okay, so what about like Ric Flair? Now, Ric Flair was always accused of having the same match. And there was a lot of similarities with his matches.
hmm
Um, and in terms of his spot calling style, uh, what would he be like? What kind of spot caller was he? Because you knew he was calling spots, but
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
what was
he was
what was
very
the style?
generous. He was very generous for one, because the job guy, he'd always give them a sequence, you know. He'd give you a couple things and then take over and he pretty much knew everything Flair was going to do. I mean, basically, you're just going to sell and wait for him to come to you because he's going to be doing his strutting and all that kind of stuff. So I got
Mm-hmm.
to wrestle him once. I think it was like in a 6-man or an 8-man with I want to say it was the Horsemen, of course. I think it was Arn, Flair, Barry, and maybe it was a 6-man. And but you're wrestling Ric Flair,
Yeah.
so you can do whatever you want to do. So
You
Barry
know that
Windham,
if
I
he
said,
right, if he
go
chops
ahead.
you in the corner, you're going to get a chance maybe to turn it around on him or
Oh,
shoot him
I actually
across.
chopped him first because I knew I was going to get lit up.
Got it.
So I chopped him when I had my, you know, time. I gave him the chops, and he didn't say one word. And was like, no problem. He lit me up. I made sure I chopped him as hard as I could. So, but it was cool. I mean, you're wrestling, you know, Ric Flair. You grew up watching him, so
Yeah. And of course, Dusty was a legend, and even
yeah,
as the babyface, of course, when I would imagine that Dusty was probably given a lot of directions inside the ring. Like I know his big thing was "Come to me, baby, come to me," and guys would,
yeah. Feed to him.
he because yeah. So
Yeah.
what was that like? What was that?
I
I
never got
don't
to
think.
wrestle Dusty. I never
Yeah.
wrestled him in the whole match. I done stuff with him, but never got to wrestle him. There's a few that I wish I did. So, but you can't change the course of what happened.
Right.
So, but
Now, did guys like Blackjack, did they tell you about different guys that they worked with and what calling spots would be like with them?
no, I wish and there's things that I need to write down and stuff because there's things I want to talk to like Bugsy about. He's 80 years old, and I want to say he's the oldest guy still around, but he's one of the few that there's not a lot of them in their 80s that wrestling. A lot of them don't make it that far, unfortunately. But
Right, right.
those are things I need to talk to him about. Different people and stuff like that. What calling. Yeah, that would be something great. I'm gonna make a mental note of that too. Hey Siri, put mental note to talk to Bugsy about calling
Yeah.
matches. And
Yeah,
I've
I'd be
been through it with
curious.
him where, and Bugsy has a stutter. I mean, it's well known. Everyone, he has a stutter. And to this day, he'll be like, and you know what he's going to say. And he's just constantly, uh, uh," and you just, one time I said the word when I was younger because I didn't know that he'd get so like mad that just now I just sit there and,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. 'Cause I'm not going to disrespect him or anything.
Right.
But you put when Bugsy had that cigar or whatever, when he's doing his promo, he never, stuttered at all. He was boom on it. I mean, great. He was great on the mic. And, he was good in there. Sometimes you're like, oh, tackle. Okay. I know the tackle's coming,
Mm-hmm.
but, he had that stutter, but he was good. When I wrestle him, he just pretty much just call it just like this. I'd have him in the corner, he'd be like, hit me, kid, hit me. Boom. Harder, kid, harder. He's just in there, he's harder, harder. I'm like, I can't hit you any harder. Come on, kid, lay it in. I said, I can't hit. And I'm throwing live rounds at him in the corner, and he's telling me hit him harder, harder, harder. He was a very stiff guy to wrestle. He was tight in the ring. And then
Ah.
when he did that splash, it came down and it was his belly hitting you first. It was, woo, it was tight. So you'd have to lean up and, the old lean up a little bit, catch him and go down with them to kind of absorb the shock of the move and everything. But and I wrestled Blackjack. I wrestled him a few times. And the one time was, and you called the match actually, for IWF. Blackjack, I was running, he it was his school, and I was the guy in the ring that was training the guys, and Jack would come up and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, okay, that looks good," and go back and smoke a cigarette, talk on the phone, come back, stuff like that. So he was like, "Hey, you call the match." I'm like, "No, no, Jack, this is your match. You go ahead." "No, no, no, you go ahead." I said, "Jack, if I call the match, I'm going to be looking good." He's like, and so I was probably 200 pounds then,
Mm-hmm.
and Jack's feeding up for a body slam, taking an arm drag, all that kind of stuff. And people are like, what? Because the taping before he wrestled that big old guy, the Lebanese assassin, Tony Mella,
Yeah.
big old 350 pounds, 6 foot something guy. And Jack totally squashed him. And then you see me coming out with karate pants and a mask on, and this Blackjack's bumping all over the place. People are like, what the hell? But it was a respect thing. He's like, you know what? I can't do a lot for you, but I'm going to do this for you. Out of
Mm-hmm.
respect, I'm going to let you, you know, have a story later in life to tell on a podcast. So I know Blackjack kind of had envisioned for our podcast, 30 years ago. Let me
He's
give you a story that you and Kay Kelly can talk about years from now.
I
Thank
loved
you,
having the
Blackjack.
opportunity. Thank you, Jack. Yes, I loved having those occasions where I would drive him. It was only a few times, but it was just like story time with Blackjack, and
Oh,
it was,
priceless.
though. Yeah, you just go, okay, this is my. I sat one time at. I did this show for, I can't remember, but it was like a Christian wrestling deal, and it was in Oklahoma
Okay.
City, and it didn't draw. It was, there was no people there. Apparently they gave out all the tickets, and you know people didn't bother to come. They bought the tickets, but they just didn't bother to come. Whatever the promoter's excuse was, it was fine. We got paid, but I sat at
Well,
a
there you go.
table. I'm sitting with Jerry Lynn, And at the table was Les Thatcher, Jim Cornette,
Oh, wow.
Dr. Tom Pritchard, and Cowboy Bill Watts.
Oh, you were a fly on the wall there.
And I leaned over to Jerry and I was like, tell me this is real. We're really sitting here with all these guys? And he's like, I know, we don't belong. We don't
He was like,
should be here.
Jerry Lynn, let me give you his voice. I know. It's great. You know. His very whiny voice.
Yes.
A very good friend of mine. I roomed with him in WCW, and amazing guy. Incredible. One of the best workers ever, I think.
Oh, I would agree. He's out of, again, in that generation, and you always put kind of him and Sean Waltman together because of their early work, you know what I mean? So they're peers. And out of that generation, I think Jerry is pretty much widely regarded as the best. But there were a lot of good guys.
Had some amazing matches.
Yep.
And he's like, I was having a show once at a country bar I worked at in downtown Orlando called 8 Seconds. And Jerry was going to wrestle for me. And he was living in Orlando at the time. And I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to have you wrestle Rob. Oh, come on, man. I'm like, he's like, oh, if you do that, I'm going to have to charge you more. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man. He says, come on, Case. Why you got to do that to me? I had to wrestle him all week long. I don't want to do it now. Come on. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Because
he's like, you know, he's just so stiff all the time and careless. It's what he said to me.
That's funny.
Jerry Lynn hated chops.
Yes.
He's like, we'd sit there and have huge conversations, intellectual conversations about a chop. He's like, what is a chop? It makes no sense. In a real fight, are you going to throw a chop? I said, I better not ever see you throw a chop in a match. I'm going to be yelling at you the whole time. You know, so I'm like, no, man, you just do it just to get the sound, the effect, you know, to, you know, the visual and everything. He would always whine about, I always call it, quit whining.
Steve Corino was the same way. He wanted the, he said this on commentary because, you know, when he was, because he was still sort of wrestling then, and it would be like, oh, I'm starting the Stop the Chop campaign. What do you mean, stop the chop? I hate chops, Kevin. They should be barred from wrestling.
Oh, that sounds like a good T-shirt. Stop the chop.
Yeah, it was a because again, and Bret Hart has said the same thing. They make no sense. Why do you do it? And it just hurts.
You know, there could be a lot of T-shirts. I was talking to you right before we got on the show that there was it Becky Lynch?
Oh, yeah.
She was getting her head hit into the. I just saw it on Facebook. I was just scrolling through, and one of my Facebook friends, Rudy Gonzalez from Texas. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
You know him? Yeah. So he was like, "What is this?" I looked at it, and the girl was slamming her head into the announcer's table, and she's smacking it with both hands and coming about this far from hitting the table. And someone's like, well, that's better than the leg in the ring earlier. So this person, she's making what, probably $1 million a year, at least. And it's just, it's amazing that people still watch. You know, the only saving grace they have is that they have exposed so much of the business to tell everyone that it's so fake. You know everything. There's no like Kevin Sullivan used to say, I knew wrestling was bullshit. Okay, but when the Sheik wrestled, I'm like, you know what? Everyone, this is all fake. It's all bullshit. But you know that Sheik, I'm not too sure about him. I think he might be the real deal. I think he might be a shoot. You know, so Kevin always say that when he would like talk about stuff and say, you know, he'd always tell the same story over and over about that. But he was like, you know what? We knew it was bullshit, but that Sheik, I wasn't sure about him.
People said it about Johnny Valentine and Wahoo. They were like, oh man, everything else on this show, this is in the 70s. When they,
you know, Jerry Lynn would tell Wahoo not to chop him?
What? Yeah, he would. Wahoo, listen, you know.
Let's stop the chop. Okay,
We're going to stop
stop
the
the
chop.
chop. I'm gonna make a
People would
T-shirt out
go,
of that.
everything else is bullshit. But when Valentine and Wahoo got in there, it was real, and they were firing live rounds. They didn't care.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
with Lawler and Dundee. As many times as those guys worked to protect the business,
yeah.
they would hit each other for real,
Sure.
so that it made it to where you could suspend disbelief on
Exactly.
everything else. But now it's gone the other way, to where Becky Lynch is getting slammed into the desk and is missing the table by
Yeah.
this much. But then if there's something later that happens that is real or close to real, then they, ooh, that's the real one. Now they're really mad at each other. People knew.
Yeah.
People knew then and they know now.
Right.
And they're more tolerant. WWE fans are more tolerant of the bullshit. But it's the same reason that a lot of people have been chased away from the modern product, because they don't, there's not a lot of effort to protect it.
Right.
Some guys,
There's
Becky Lynch's husband, Seth Rollins, faked a
right.
knee injury, worked everybody so that he could turn heel,
Yeah.
and got everybody worked. So
Well, I
they're
think that's the
good.
whole thing they're trying to do now is they're trying to fake, kayfabe the boy, everyone. That's the thing they try to do is try to pull
Mm-hmm.
something over than The Office or, everyone, make everyone believe it's a shoot. I think they just do it to mess with Meltzer the most.
Probably.
Meltzer can't do
And
anything if we're going to.
that'd be a good show topic, moments that felt real. Good job, Scott. I agree.
Yeah.
I'll give you one. So, my wife is in the hospital. We're getting ready to have our first baby. And Cliff Anderson calls me and says, you're not going to believe what just happened. Kevin Sullivan and Brian Pillman had a match on pay-per-view, and it was a I Quit match. And he said, "I respect you," or it was an "I respect you" match. And Brian Pillman just right out of the gate, "I respect you, Booker man," and that was the end of the match. And it was like this huge, big, expose the business moment that had never happened before. And I was like, holy cow.
Right.
So, but that was them working everybody.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's
It was,
crazy to think. So here was Brian Pillman, who in one regard was a little tougher to work with, because he'd want to plan stuff out, but then he was such an out of the box thinker with the
yeah.
way that he
Well,
came up
that was
with.
Flying Brian.
Yeah.
Flying Brian was the spot monkey.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
as he evolved, he changed a lot, I think.
I remember there was a situation in New Japan where at the end of the Best of Super Juniors tournament one year, it was like the last night of block competition, and it was the one that Ace Austin was in. And Ace Austin had just made headlines because he recently signed with AEW. But at the time, he was with TNA. And he didn't want to, but he had won a bunch of matches in the tournament, and he had to lose this last one. And he was wrestling Francesco Akira, who's a good kid from Italy. He's still with the company,
Okay.
he's still with New Japan, just broke his wrist. Hope he gets better soon. And Ace Austin had to lose. He didn't want to lose to Akira by pinfall. Now, it didn't matter if he lost by DQ, would count out, whatever. But he didn't want to get pinned. And that everybody, what do you mean? Well, wouldn't look good for TNA or whatever, or Scott D'Amore doesn't want me to do a job or something like that, even though he had lost a couple of matches in the tournament. So I think it was during intermission, and Akira and Ace were on afterward. And Akira finds me and he says, "You're not going to believe this bullshit." What? And he tells me the story. I go, "So what are you going to do?" "Well, we're going to do some count out thing." And I said, "You realize, of course, that what he's saying is, it's not that he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to lose to you. He thinks you're beneath him. He thinks that you're a job boy. You better go out there and make him earn it." Brother, he was shot out of a cannon the whole night.
Wow.
And we were talking the whole way through, and I'm like, "You got to be this pissed off Italian guy. You're too nice, because you got to come out and be talking trash in Italian the whole time, And he finally got it. But this was the night that the light came on.
And that's a
So
career changer too.
he's just lighting Ace Austin up the whole time, right? And they came up
Yeah.
with a count out finish where Akira was, Ace is on the floor and Akira is going to come running down the line, jump off the apron, and nail him with double knees. Brother, he shot, he came flying off that apron of the ring and crushed Ace Austin. Like, there wasn't any fake about that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm calling it in commentary. And I knew what they were going to do, but I was like, I was mesmerized with the transformation of this kid, but he was pissed off in a real situation that made him bring the fight out. And it made the match so yeah. So Ace Austin lost, but guess what? Akira got over in that moment. And he got over with the office because they said, this kid is tough. This kid gets it. This kid, and he's still there, and he's been figured in ever since.
So that was a career changer for him.
I'm not taking anything away from Ace Austin, who's a lovely young man. I like him personally, very good. Just on this night, not a great decision. And in hindsight, probably, it would have been just better to take the 1, 2, 3. Nobody's going to care. But boy, the kid got over so good. The Italian kid got over so good with this convoluted situation that was brought about from some ego or whatever it was. But there's moments like that where you go, what are we doing here, boys? Uh-oh, this isn't.
Yeah.
We got to get back to business.
All the boys in the back are watching the monitors.
Yeah. Because it's like, uh-oh, something's going down. Now, you, of course, were the lightest, feather light, they would call you. Feather light Casey Thompson. Just like he never touched you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was me, all right.
Did you ever say, watch the tater, kid? Boom? Or did you just tater him?
I'd never give him a warning. I'll just hit him. No. I mean, I was very stiff, but I wasn't dangerous. I would protect you. Your face was sacred, your kidneys, stuff like that. But you give me open chest, open back, I'm going to lay that shit in. They're going to remember me one way or another. Someone's going to remember me when I leave that match.
Did anybody ever have a cross word with you, perhaps in the ring or afterward, about you hit me too hard?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I didn't care. I wrestled Sting and Luger one night.
Yeah.
And the referee came up and was like, hey, why are you stiffing Sting? I'm like, what do you mean? I got like 2 boots. Were they too heavy? Wah. Fonzie came up and was like, oh, why'd you stiff Sting? I'm like, whatever. But, it's, they would, some guys would say, oh, lighten up, lighten up. Oh, brother, did I owe you money I forgot about? The old saying, you were like laying that stuff in. Like, well, then fucking pay me.
So those are,
best was when the guy, the over guy, would come back and complain because you were too tight in the ring. So,
but like, what about what about on the indies where you certainly had the reputation of being one of the veteran guys and one of the tougher guys that somebody was going to be in the ring with? Did anybody ever fight back? Did anybody ever take exception? Or did anybody ever like cover and peel away and, not want to take
Rusty Brooks?
Oh, yeah.
His son, Jeff, I called him J-Dog, I think I beat the shit out of him in the ring. And rightfully so, he deserved it. And I was still in the match. I might have been in an elimination match or something. He was in the back, all jumping up and down. I'm going to beat his ass when he gets in the back, all this stuff. Everyone's like, you better get your back and go home. What you need to do, because he's going to continue on. And his dad even said, Jeff, you need to sit down and shut up. And you need to go up to him and apologize and ask for his forgiveness, or he won't continue to kick your ass. And I came to the back and he smarted off to me, and I open hand gave him a slap across the face and not rang his bell. And he came back and said, I want to apologize. I'm totally sorry. Please forgive me. You know, yeah. I mean, I've had a few things like that in my lifetime.
Damn. You know, of course, we want to protect the names of those that are not involved. But was there a reason why old J Dog caught the wrath in the
You know what?
ring?
I wish I remembered because it was a good story, but I just don't remember it. So I'll have to bang some of the cobwebs up to try to see if I can remember what it is and tell it another time. I wish I wish I could remember, but it was something that I honestly don't remember.
The boys generally fought over women or money or
Yeah.
both.
Um, I was over in Lima, Peru, and I was in a tag team with Cliff, and the guy that the tag team match we were in, Rusty Brooks was one of the guys, and it was some other kid with him, one of Rusty's students, and he got a big old ego over there, like he was something, like he was Hulk Hogan or something, right? And I'm like, Rusty, you need to reel him back in. I know, man. He says, just do what you got to do. I'm like, all right. I've never hit someone so hard where my hand hurt so bad from hitting them. Or I chopped them and it felt like my hand was going to pop because I was chopping them so hard. Things like that.
Now, what was it like? Was it Dan Spivey and Hanson beat up the Blackhearts?
Oh,
Was it
yeah. Woo.
like Tom Nash got his head split open?
Yeah, you can see the blood coming out through the
Ugh.
mask. Yeah, that was brutal.
And that was just because like
Because,
they had enough of Tom Nash, right?
yeah, you know what? I think,
Because
but they came to the back, and because I'm his partner, Dave Johnson, was a friend of mine, close friend, traveled the world with the guy, and he said we went to the back and we shook their hands. Said, "Was everything okay, sir?" And they said, "Yes, no problem." And he said, "We never had any problems after that." But he said, "Boy, did we get our ass beat that night."
damn, ooh, yeah. I mean, Dave got it, but Tom got it worse,
Oh, Tom
and
always
that
had heat
was
with everyone, though.
yeah. Like it was always very interesting. When you look at the particulars, like for example, like Dick Slater and Sting had an issue and a famous fight
Oh
where
yeah,
Dick Slater was like widely regarded as one of the toughest men in wrestling, and we of course have done a whole, who are the toughest guys, and
Haku told me that Dickie was the toughest guy ever in the business.
that's saying something because Haku was at the top of our list, and I know Slater made
Yeah,
your
he's the
list.
toughest guy in the business.
Yeah, Slater gave Sting a swirly, as it were,
Yeah.
threw his head in the toilet, and he had done that. So I knew that story. But then when Ron Fuller was doing with his podcast, he talked about another time where Slater did the same thing. Because I think it may have been Bob Orton Jr. I can't remember.
Oh wow.
But it was another situation where something had happened. There was an issue. They continued to fight in the back, or the issue happened in the back, and Slater beat his ass in the locker room, beat his
Yeah.
ass bad, and gave him a swirly. That's kind of like his signature thing. So you never
Yeah.
had any problems with Rusty Brooks, right? Because Rusty Brooks, we all loved
No.
him.
No, I mean, a little bit, but nothing that was, no, I was cool with Rusty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Probably
there's
just,
something over his son once, but he kind of realized it and was like, you know what? You just do what you need to do. And I'm trying to,
yeah.
parts of the stories floating back and forth, and
My granddad thought wrestling was fake, but he believed in Terry Funk. I'll tell you, Terry went out of his way to make you believe.
he suspend that disbelief.
But again, he was a guy that could turn it on and turn it off, and but in that generation, you had Terry Funk, you had Harley Race.
Yeah, he was tough. Ooh.
And there were a lot of tough guys. Even like Buddy Colt had a reputation of being tough and having to protect the business. Don
Nicest
Curtis,
guy in the world, though.
Yeah, Don Curtis, who was a sweetheart,
Yeah.
put the sleeper on a reporter for a shoot because the reporter thought it was bullshit. And
Wow.
Nighty Night cranked him up and see you later. That was it. And the reporter wrote about it. I thought it was all fake until Don Curtis put the sleeper hold on me and I went to sleep.
Did you ever hear about when you were working up there in the office? Did anything ever come up about the slap with John Stossel and that?
Nothing in
He got
particular,
slapped.
like, did Dr. D. David Schultz, was he told by somebody?
Right.
Was he told by Vince or one of his
What do you think?
henchmen? I think he was, because but again, Schultz had a hair trigger, and if a reporter from one of the networks is there, the boys used to get very itchy when a reporter would come around.
Right.
And, once they'd see that camera go on and it's not one of our guys, and everybody would get like very cautious. And
Very
that may have been
protective.
all, and that may have been all that Schultz needed, was just to be asked that question. But, and nobody ever said like, oh, Schultz went into business for himself. Nobody ever said, oh, that was bad, because everybody was like, forget that, John Stossel, whatever. But it also was, it had happened, 10 years before I got there, 84, 85.
Right.
But you had guys like that generationally who were half nuts. And you had to kind of watch out for them, because you never knew what you were going to get in the ring. You never knew what you were going to get behind the scenes, and everybody had to be very cautious all the time. I know I've talked about Sid having that rep of he was such a wild card. You never knew what he was going to do or say. And then when he came back for his second run, 96, he was apologetic to different people that he had run across years prior. Hey, I'm sorry if I was an asshole back then. I was a little wound up.
Were you not going to take his apology?
Oh, everybody was like, oh, thank you. It's great to see you again. Thank you so much. These were the people 3 weeks before that were telling me, oh, Sid is coming back. It's going to be so awful. Oh, why? What do you mean? Oh, he was here a few years ago and he was terrible to work with and he never wanted to do anything and he'd yell and scream about everything. These are the photographers and the producers. This is all behind the scenes people.
Yeah.
And they were dreading Sid coming back. Oh, Sid was a peach. Everybody loved Sid his second run. Kidding me? When he was there in 96, It was awesome. One of my most favorite spot calls in a match was Sid, and it was in WCW. And it was it's an enhancement match, and the referee leaned into him and said something, and then comes out of the scene. The guy's at Sid's feet, and Sid's picking him up, and he puts him in for the power bomb, and Sid yells, "We're going home!" and gives him the power bomb.
Wow.
I loved it. And of course they left it in because nobody knew what that meant.
Right. But, I mean, Sid would kill people in that power bomb. I don't know, maybe because I was able to take all of his bumps and I was like encouraged all the crazy stuff because I didn't care. Because at that time I was a little smaller and I needed to take wild bumps for them. They would put me over with the office where, Jody Hamilton would say, okay, come up next week, kid, before I got bigger and everything. And so I would take his whirly bird power bombs. I mean, he always took care of me. One time I wrestled him once and he slapped me in my face. I mean, laid it in. And I told him, I said in the back, I said, if you ever slap me in my face again, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And he was like, oh, I'm so, so sorry. I apologize. I'll never do that again. You know, because Blackjack was always like, you know what? You never let someone do that to you. So,
Right.
um, but
Um, Now, somebody who has a quiet reputation for toughness is Ron Simmons, and you don't hear a lot about him, but obviously had the reputation. Mark
yeah,
Henry recently said the only guy that he was afraid of was Ron. Um,
yeah,
and now when he was in WCW, did you ever have the chance to wrestle him, Butch Reed, Doom? Were you ever part
yeah,
of that, or was that
yeah.
okay? So
I
what was that
wrestled
like?
Butch Reed. I wrestled Doom. That was my first television match with WCW.
Oh my God,
Was Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. So, needless to say, I was scared shitless. So, but we were in I don't remember. I think it was Perry, Georgia. So that's I even remember the name of the city and everything. But yeah, yeah, I wrestled them. It was fine. Nothing was crazy. So, but yeah, they I think Butch Reed might have been tougher than Ron Simmons.
oh, I don't know. I know both were tough.
Yeah, yeah, definitely guys you do not want to mess with.
No,
So,
it's a now Butch may have been a little chemically enhanced in his crazy.
oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, there were some guys that would get on the Bolivian marching powder and get a little wild. So
I know
you got to,
there was I vaguely remember a story of Ron Simmons talking about um he was had a show was supposed to be home early and he stayed out all night. So he just went right to the shed, took off his shirt, and started on the riding lawnmower. Was mowing the grass like at 7 o'clock in the morning, like he's already been there, been in bed and back up and mowing the grass. And his wife was out there with a frying pan, beating him in the head with it and everything.
as tough
So
as
yeah,
Ron Simmons was, Mrs. Simmons even tougher. I
the
do love the
barbarian was the
stories.
same way. Oh,
Oh
mama. Oh, don't want to
yeah,
mess with mama.
Mama had a rep, and there were always
Yeah,
the women that you would never see. You just heard about
right.
because
Yeah,
you didn't bring your wife, your girlfriend, or both to the show
right. I think she
because you
handles
certainly
everything now with him, with Barb.
probably
Yeah.
you do right by listening if you got a wife like that. I know,
Oh, yeah.
like you got to you got to talk to the booker. That was like Honky Tonk Man's wife was like that. Harley Race's wife was like that. Um, you had to kind of go through them because they kept everything straight. Because God knows what
Right.
these guys, what these people would be doing with money in their pocket or whatever. They'd get lost and come home broke. It's the only way
Oh,
you
yeah.
know the bills are going to get paid.
Exactly.
Okay, so what we've learned tonight is that um, match calling in the ring, it's a lost art. They don't have it
Oh, yeah.
anymore. Um, and I would say now the only ones that can call spots, it would seem like they're few and far between. An example I thought of for tonight's discussion was when The Miz wrestled Shane McMahon a couple of years ago at WrestleMania, and Snoop Dogg was the referee, and
Yeah.
Shane tore his quad like 10 seconds into the match,
Well, now
and
everything's on the
Miz was,
fly there.
yeah, and then Miz called the whole finish with Snoop dropping the people's elbow on him and covering him and pinning him. So, um, doing something like that, when you see it, you can appreciate the art of what we used to just
Right.
see on a night in, night out basis
Now,
because it is a
what do
lost
you
art.
prefer? Do you prefer the wrestling of back in the day when of your fandom when they called everything entirely in the ring? Or do you like it where it's now where you know that they practice that match for hours beforehand to go out there and everything is called and laid out the whole entire match?
I like a struggle. I've always liked a struggle. I don't need gymnastics. I don't need a choreographed routine. I can appreciate it when you see Ricochet and Will Ospreay do it. The first time you saw it in New Japan. It's like, I've never seen anything like this before. It's beautiful.
I was telling
it's
you about
amazing.
That one kid from AEW,
Speedball.
We were talking about that. I was like, yeah, the kid's good. I don't like the way he wrestles, but he's talented.
Yep.
But it's not my style.
It's not my preference of style. I like things, and we've talked about it on this show. The beginning of the transformation of Kevin Sullivan from the Boston Battler to the demonic presence. And it started, the wheels started to come off when he wrestled Barry Windham on TV for the now vacant Florida title. And the first 3 or 4 minutes of that match were really rough. Like, there was some, guys zigged when they should have zagged or whatever, and it's lucky that nobody got hurt. But it added to the authenticity of it. It made it more real, that there was this struggle going on. And you could tell that they called just a few spots ahead of time because they did a deal where Kevin got thrown out of the ring and may have hurt his knee, and they went to commercial break. And then later on, Barry got thrown out of the ring. This was Dusty at his cinematic best as the booker. Barry gets thrown out of the ring.
That was unheard of those times.
Right. Hurts his knee, and they go to commercial break. And then, of course, the finish. But the finish came almost out of nowhere, but it was intentionally flat because Sullivan stole the victory in a nefarious way. He took advantage of the knee, whereas he had been able to get out before, and Barry gave him the timeout. Anyway, the way they did that, and that when I go back and I rewatch that was like, yeah, this is art to me. I'm not so much of the, let's call it all ahead of time. But obviously, when you've got a lot of people and especially if you're doing a stunt show match, with tables, ladders, chairs, any of that stuff. I mean, all of that needs to be precise because there's so many other guys are going to get hurt, and we don't want that. But yeah, I much prefer, even if it's a struggle, even if it doesn't look clean, I don't care. This is a real fight. Help me suspend my disbelief.
And I think that's lost, that they don't try to do that at all anymore. If they would just try that in a few of the matches each, like say pay-per-view or whatever it is, I think that would change wrestling so much. But
I think it needs to start at the independents. The guys, God bless them, they're out there doing their best, the guys and girls today, and they're trying their hardest, and they do what they see on TV. And if they go and they get an extra spot, they work as an enhancement guy for, security spot or whatever, AEW, WWE, and they see the way the guys go over their matches for hours and hours and hours. That's what they take back with them. And there is modeling. These are the top people in the industry. We're going to model ourselves after them. And in theory, that works. You just do what the greats do. You do what the best do.
Yeah, it's crazy that the people that are training them, like Shawn Michaels, he never did that.
Nope.
The majority of his career.
Nope.
I mean, I'm sure at the tail end of it changed, but I wonder what the change was for. I don't think they could have done that.
I think a lot of it had to do with TV. I think it has to do with TV.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure on the guys to tell everybody what their spot is before they do it. People would tell me in AEW when guys were going to get color, and I'm like, I don't need to know that. That's fine. Because what if they hit it and nothing happens?
Did you like to know what was going to happen, or would you rather just sit down and call it?
Let me just sit there and call it. I never knew anything in AEW. The only matches that I knew in New Japan, rather. I never knew anything in New Japan. The only match that I would ever know would be a Jay White match if he had a big singles match, because it was almost like a good luck charm. And I think I said it here on this podcast, that Jay would like to call the match back with me listening so that
Oh yeah.
I would know what he's doing. But it was also, as he would say, it's another chance for me to make sure that I remember it. And I mean,
Right.
he called back a 46-minute match with him and Kota Ibushi.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm like, I think how long are you guys supposed to go? Like 35 to 40. Like, I think this is long. Well, everybody said it was okay, so you're probably right. And then they went 46. So it was 11 minutes over. You know what I mean? It's
Wow.
just a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of because the selling and everything takes a lot of time. But no, I would just sit down in the chair and just call it as I see it.
Lucky for you at AEW, they just never had any production meetings like that, huh?
No, they never had any. But yet we had to do a TV. New Japan was like sport. New Japan was sitting down and calling a night of wrestling that had 7 or 8 matches. AEW is a 2-hour TV show that's timed. So what are the heat spots? What are we going to break on? When are we going to break now? What's the spot going to be? Where are we going to be? So that I could start to set the narrative of the heat spot so that I could have my 6 or 7 second throw to break. And I learned how good Tony
give you any of that?
No, I would go to the boys and I would ask them.
Wow.
And the boys were great. Shivani's skill, Tony Schiavone's awesome. Because Shivani's skill is that he could say nothing, but he knew how to stretch 2 words for time.
Oh, wow.
As the count is happening, and sometimes you would hear, they would start to count back from 10, and you'd hear 8, 7, 6, 5, 5, and Schiavone would throw in a couple of, here live on a Saturday night on Collision. It's AEW. Mastery. That's his skill. So good at it. Way better than me. Because I would kind of have my sentence of where I wanted to go to, not based around anything that I was told ahead of time or any pre-planned deal, but where we were in the match and where we were going to. Is an upset about to happen? Can we be on the road to recovery for so-and-so? Is Darby Allin down and out? Whatever it might be. I would try to get in a full sentence, but Schiavone's thing was little punctuations of time. And that made his transitions to break so much smoother because I would always wind up racing or having more time than I thought.
Interesting.
Way better at TV than me. Did hundreds of hours of TV, and I did hundreds of hours of live event shows. So, but it's a different skill set. But no, I much preferred the New Japan style. I much preferred the, we don't need to we're not taking a commercial break here during this match. So you settle down, and then the crowd starts to make some noise, and you start to talk about the crowd, and you talk about what we've seen a little bit, because I'm filling a little bit of time because I know they're going to get into a running spot, and there's, somebody's about to take over. I could feel, I knew the beat of the match, the rhythm of the match, and I could tell when there was going to be, here comes the cutoff, here comes the heat spot, here comes whatever. So I'm shining up the babyface along with the heel, shine, how great the babyface is, and then all of a sudden, wham, cutoff. And usually in a tag, it'd be wham, and then wham, wham. Okay, wow. Emphatic. Something like that. Now your narrative changes. Could talk about this for hours, man. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It's awesome.
Yeah. And all the listeners are getting all the behind-the-scenes things that they care the most about, I think.
That's right. And that's why the audience is growing. Now over 500 subscribers and on our way to 1 million, 1 subscriber at a time. Let's wrap this up because Miami and Notre Dame are playing football. I know. Well, we've had a lot to talk about. Miami and Notre Dame are playing football, so I want to get back and watch the rest of that.
All right.
Where are we at? At 9:54 Eastern time.
And you've got 15 seconds to close the show, Kevin.
15 seconds. It's 21-7, University of Miami. They're walking the dog. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to my Florida State Seminoles who whipped that ass of Alabama. We're all very happy that the program is back.
I saw your post on X about that.
That photographer was like, oh my God. I was looking through her work. Now it's a husband and wife team. Her husband shoots pictures as well. Yeah. And just like, damn, because they were talking about it on the War Chant postgame show. Tom Lang and what's the other gentleman's name? Gene Williams were talking about it. And Tom Lang's a big wrestling fan. So I love listening to those guys. Win or lose, they're always entertaining. And they were talking about, the husband and wife team. And I followed Melinda and was like, damn, look at these pictures. They're beautiful.
Nice.
All right, Casey. So we'll be back next week live. And, we'll probably continue more of some of this. I always love to hear your stories about the guys that you wrestled when you didn't get a ring announcement. You were in ring, which is where we got the name for the show.
Yes, sir.
In ring, Casey Thompson.
There you go.
We'll come up with more T-shirt ideas. We'll come up with some more ideas, and we'll have some fun. Always. We always have a blast. And again, the folks, from Ryan Scott, everybody, Country Joe. Thank you all very much. Country Joe had a thought earlier on. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if it's still available here in my live chat. No, I can't do that. One of these, we can save a file there, the whole thing. Yep, Granddad thought Terry Funk was real, everybody else was fake. So that's gonna do it. Let's wrap it up. What are you doing tomorrow for Labor Day?
No labor. I'm laboring on the couch, I think.
Good.
Oh no, I think I'm working the real job. I got the real gimmick going on. Yeah. Well, apparently it's not a paid holiday, so I'm going in, and so I'll do what I do. I'll be hard at labor.
In your home office.
Making shorts.
I mean, working.
Hey, I just found all of our comments. I never saw those before. Holy smokes, there's a lot of them.
You never saw that before?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ryan said he got here late. Ryan O'Toole. It's all right. Better late than never, Ryan.
Yeah. Scott said, how do you know if you're overselling versus when to bump and feed? Well, this is for another podcast.
That is for another podcast. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. We'll put the trainer hat on some more. We'll talk about some more drills. We'll talk about some of the things that you taught, some of the things that are lost in today's wrestling, and we'll tell more stories about wacky stars of the 80s and 90s and 2000s that Casey wrestled. And I'm sure we'll uncover some more facts, some little nuggets of info that people didn't remember. And if you can remember, listen, you clear the fog bank, Casey, and you come up with any of the hows and whys of why you wanted to beat up Rusty Brooks' son. If you can remember. I
wish I could remember. Oh, I didn't. I did beat him up. I might have to ask him why. Hey, why did I beat you up? I don't remember what the reason was. Back then, it really didn't take much of a reason to make that happen. But this particular time, there was a just reason behind it all. I just don't remember what it was.
I'm sure there's a just reason. One last thought. What's the best way for talent to help an announcer to put talent over? Well, obviously, if there is anything that is special or unique, of course, let them know. The other thing is let the camera people know. By the way, I'm going to do this or that. And if you can smarten up the camera folks, the announcer should be good enough to see it, because it'll be
I used to tell Jackie
right in front of them. It'll be on their monitor, on the monitor in front of them. And if you smarten up the camera folks, there was no smartening up of the camera guys in New Japan. So a lot of the good stuff got missed. And I would see it because I'm not watching the monitor. I'm glancing at the monitor, but I see that they're on something else. And there's something very important going on over there. So I'm making sure that I'm getting across the what happened over there moment, just out of camera range, just out of camera view.
Wow.
And then a lot of times, if there was nothing going on, if whatever the moment was in the ring was blah, and there's a bunch of guys on the floor fighting, I would say, oh man, there's a hell of a fight over here to my left, knowing full
So
well that the
hopefully the
camera's going to
producer would realize it and take you there.
just something. And sometimes they would, just coincidentally. I would get the feel of when the director was going to cut. Because again, they didn't smarten up the camera folks. They didn't smarten up anybody. So they were just kind of shooting it. And they, the one night, Phantasmo smartened up the Japanese announcers. Boy, oh boy, I was like, man, don't do that. Don't smarten those people up. They don't want to know.
Oh, they didn't like that, huh?
You're crossing a line. Don't do, well, I want them to not. No. No. They'll get it. But in the moment, they don't need to know it. They'll talk about it afterward. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just telling you, don't waste your breath. Because they don't want to know that shit. So, but yeah, let's talk more about, we'll talk more about that stuff when we get together next week. Uh-oh, my big brown dog is here. That could be trouble. Wheezy, what are you doing? Hi, baby girl. So
no,
I'm gonna
she's
go.
making a run in.
No, she's shy. She ran away. All right. So Casey, thank you very much as always for your time. This is awesome. I love it. Highlight of my day. And
I do what I can do.
You do what you can do. You open us up. You have us into your house, the Palatial Studios, and we get to do a podcast together. So it's great fun. So that's going to do it for this edition of the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. Again, like, share, subscribe, tell everybody you know, and even people you don't know. For our host, Casey Thompson, I'm Kevin Kelly. We'll see you next week right here on the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. I'm trying to hit stop. It's not stopping. I'm just going to